I see people from their initial diagnosis through their recovery. So I help them, give them exercises, I teach them about their vocal cords, their neuroanatomy, their physiology, how to produce voice. But at first, the primary thing is to stop the trauma and assess how they're damaging their voice, and then start problem-solving ways to teach them to be able to protect their voice as they're healing. So it's a twofold point at this point. When a person is diagnosed with having a serious injury, and it could be something as simple as nodules versus something more serious such as a hemorrhage or polyp, then we have to start planning a plan of care. So it's really medical treatment at that time. And that's critical because you need to be able to help them heal, teach them how to recover, teach them how to speak and speak properly, and then pull in their acting and their performance so that they can try and minimize the damage as they get back to work.
So give me an example of what sort of person you see. Who comes through your door? Someone who, what do you see most?
Most of the people, most of the actors, performers, singers that I see are people who come in with a serious problem. So they have to recover medically, and I'm working very closely with the physicians to be able to diagnose and then help them recover. So in many cases, it can take months. And that is, you know, when you have a money-making business that you have, where your performance was required, sometimes people just can't work. And that's really where it's very traumatic for them and their pocketbook.
I have a question. What is the difference between a nodule, a polyp, and a cyst?
And then there were visual aids.
And then there were visual aids. All right,
Yeah.
These are normal chords. And so you can see the nice white sort of tissues that come together. The cords are attached in the front. So while they go up, actually your Adam's apple is where they're attached, right at the front of your neck. So for example, in this picture, these are traumatic intubation, post-extubation, they're granulomas. Now they're the growths that develop on the bottom of the cords when you have a medical illness. So it is not uncommon. I'll see actors, for example, who have had a medical illness. They've required intubation either from surgery. The middle one is lengthy intubation, but other ones are more mild. Sometimes a person has a quick heart attack. They have to intubate the person, or they put it in quickly and they can traumatize or damage the cords. Then there's nodules, polyps, and hemorrhages. So the one on the far left is a nodule. You'll see the little growth. It's hard to see. You'll see this little growth up here, and you can see the space. So there's breathiness coming here. Nodules, think of them kind of like a blister on your hands. Yes? Oh, okay. Speaking in front of a doctor is very traumatic. And so they can be fluid-filled, which is more common, or they can become kind of wart-like and they'll get fibrous. And so fibrous ones are when I send them right back to the doctor and go, you got to laser them off. And so this is the fluid-filled ones I can usually fix with time. Polyp here is something that the fluid becomes more prominent. Sometimes it can be blood-filled, sometimes it's not. And when you hear a person with a polyp, you can hear the flapping of that thing as they're talking. I'm seeing head shakes, so they know what that sounds like. It's impossible for me to, I can imitate a lot of sounds, but that one I can't. The hemorrhage is a hemorrhage here where the blood vessels have broken under and gotten onto that layer.
I've had it happen on stage as a singer. I felt it go bing, and I literally felt it, and it almost sounded like my vocal cords started to phase. There were multiple, like a going on, and there were couple tones. I sounded like a train whistle, the old-fashioned 3, yeah. So I've been on stage when that happened, and I realized I have to stop. I can't keep singing, you know. I mean, and it was amazing. And I have seen actors. This week I did a session, and was an on-camera actor who wasn't used to doing a sound set. And I said, all right, we're just going to do some running. Please stay focused. I'm only going to have you do, you know, maybe 5 or 6 seconds. And he kept going. I said, please stop. And then all of a sudden he went, oh. And he just sort of bent over, and I was like, I know, people pass out. It's really easy. And that's just because you're doing something that you know you're hyperventilating. So you've got to be really careful. And I think that's, if you don't have a director that knows that that's what can occur, you have to, as an actor, monitor yourself. And you have to say, I can only do, and you don't even have to say it out loud. It doesn't have to be a debate or anything else. Just stop. Just stop. That's all you have to do is just, and just say, whew, give me a sec. Wow, I see stars, If I could give you stars, Billy, whatever. From Roger Rabbit, it's just take a moment, maybe through levity or anything else, but just to stop. If you're in pain, if you're passing out, stop.
I think this is really a good point to start talking about the importance of training. Many voiceover actors do not have enough training. This is my own opinion. Many who have survived this, and I kind of use the word survived this business and have been around this business a long time, almost always do because they have significant training. Vocal training in America is limited, and it exists. We have vocal coaches, and that's good. But when I look at how American actors are not getting gigs over British actors, Aussies, New Zealanders, the Royal Academy folks, they're getting actors for Spider-Man. It was a Brit. I'm still blown away by that. And so I know we have plenty of fine American actors playing American parts that should be performing. And a lot of it is that you need more tools in your toolbox when it comes to your voice. Understanding diaphragmatic control, understanding intercostal breath support, understanding core training. Those things are really important, and understanding how your voice works. The fine thing about actors that I see when I work with them is they'll do whatever you need them to do. They'll give you the performance you want, and they'll do whatever they can to give it to you. But the problem is they sacrifice a lot to do it. And so it's important to be able to do it safely, and that's really key.
I've been working with a lot of actors who are on Broadway, and they'll come in during the day and do an animation session, and that night they have to go on stage. And knowing that it's, Thursday, and they've got 4 shows ahead of them over the next 3 days, sometimes 5. So it's, and I say, well, we kind of need you falling off this cliff. And they say, okay, and that's when the discussion starts. How can we do this? We need to get this done. It's my job as a director to make sure that the producers are happy and that they're getting the sounds that they need. But also, I see it as my job as well, that the actor can still do what they need to do as well, because they're only in with me for an hour, 2 hours maybe. But they've got a whole other career that they need to do as well. So I agree, training is so very important. So very important.
Preparation. When you're heading into any voiceover session, but let alone one where you might suspect there's going to be some stress placed on your voice, is there anything that you do? What are your warm-ups? What are your, maybe just one thing that you do?
Sure. I run vocal warm-ups in the car, always.
Have a CD or a tape that you use, or?
Well, I have been taking singing lessons for a long time, so we've run through them. There are a lot of apps available for Android and the iPhone.
Do you know their names?
The Warm Me Up app. I think I got that from you, didn't I? Yep. Warm Me Up, which has several little, you can do you can browse, they can suggest ones for you, they have like a gentle warm up. There's also Sing Friend, which allows you to change the pitch. Now we're talking about stuff I don't really know about, but like high-pitched voices, low-pitched voices, the different level, like soprano things you can choose for what's appropriate for your voice. Those are 2 that I use that I love.
What was the second one called, Courtney?
Sing Friend. It's just, it's Singer's Friend, sorry.
Singer's Friend?
Singer's Friend.
And Warm Me Up.
And Warm Me Up. And see, you can, well, you probably can't see, but there's a little thing and you can dial it to whatever you want, scale, range, if you're singing blues, stuff like that. So those 2 are good.
Yeah. You really want to start thinking of yourself as an athlete. You really want to recognize that the majority of your vocal instrument is muscular. Yeah, you've got your rib cage and your diaphragm is muscular, but the majority of the housing that they're talking about, these vocal folds, are housed in cartilage, but it's also all housed in muscle. So you really want to start thinking of yourself as an athlete. And so as an athlete, I'm sure a lot of you work out, you go to the gym, you don't just jump on the treadmill and start running like nuts, right? You do a 5-minute warm-up, you get your muscles warmed up. So everybody here in this room has heard of a warm-up, but when you get off that treadmill after running at top speed for half an hour, in theory, you don't just jump off the treadmill, you do typically a cool down. It's really important to do a cool down after a major session or a major, just rehearsal. I mean, for singers it would be rehearsal, but also, you go into the studio and you're really working those muscles. You really want to do a cool down. You want to get them back down to zero. You want to get them back down to like a more passive, relaxed state. You don't want to scream your face off and then just, peace, I'm cool. You really want to get them not so excited. So the thing that I feel like makes and then you'll find you'll bounce back the next day. The next day you would have normally maybe heard yourself hoarse, possibly. Not so much the next day, usually. If you give yourself, and we're talking like 5 minutes, doesn't have to be 20 minutes, doesn't have to be as long of a warm-up as you might have. And then the number one thing as an athlete, you're gonna hydrate. Hydrate, 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 hydrate. And don't just drink a ton of water before the session or during the session, you wanna drink the day before. You want those muscles to really be plumped up with water. You don't want dry muscles. You want that to be really pliable and limber and that kind of thing. And in the warm-ups and the cool-downs, you want to keep it nice and easy. You want to start with your regular speaking pitch. You want to just do something very gentle. You don't want to immediately like la 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 la. Like no. That's gymnastics for later. You want to do nice, easy warm-ups. That's general rule of thumb as far as that. Yeah.
What's a good warm-up that you use?
So Courtney asked me to demonstrate a couple things.
Yes, please.
Is this a good time? So stuff you can do that I find helpful that you can do, let's say you're in audition and you can't be vocalizing out in the waiting room, that kind of thing. One of the easiest things you can do is a massage. So I'm gonna put the mic down because I'm gonna use both hands and I would like everybody to join me. Yay. So just take your fingers, find your cheekbone, and right below your cheekbone you can feel how your jaw hinges right into there. Just right in front of those ears, just go around in circles as deeply as you can stand it. Like really get that jaw to go kind of slack. You can feel it slacking a little bit and let it just kind of drop right there. And then I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly, but you can go, you can stay on any of these things for as long as it feels good for you. And then we just work our way down the jawline. You can walk your fingers down like this and back up. And back down again. You can kind of do this little thing where you bring it down. You get your thumb anchored underneath. Make sure your thumb is anchored underneath so you really can get some nice pressure. Or you can kind of go up like this, but just work your way down the jawline. Once you get to the jawline, you're going to anchor your index finger on the actual chin and then take your thumbs. I'm going to lift my head up, but don't do this. I'm just going to show you. Massage your tongue from the underside. Tongue is a huge muscle. Tongue is a control freak. You want to let it just relax because it goes down into your throat. And that muscle, it's a big muscle, as I think you see on one of the slides. It's a big muscle. So you massage it from the underside. Get it to kind of, you can feel it kind of, right? You feel the root of the tongue? It's relaxing a little bit. And then this next part, you want to be super duper gentle. Take your hand, so it's like in a C shape. Place 4 fingers on one side of the larynx, thumb on the other. During this part, please don't make any vocal sound, okay? And you're going to I'll do that too, I won't say anything. I'm going to walk your fingers down, so like this. Down to the collarbone, then switch hands so that your 4 fingers are on the other side. And then whichever hand you feel more comfortable, you just go ahead and grasp the larynx gently again. And this is the part you really don't want to make any vocal sound. You rock the larynx from side to side really gently like this. 4 or 5 times, that's it. Do not want to overdo it. You might feel a little bit of clicking. It's okay, just still don't overdo it. 4 or 5 times back and forth is plenty. Already you might feel a little bit warmed up, right? Or at least a little bit more relaxed. That's a really good state to be in if you're going to vocalize, is to have that more relaxed. It's really important. So that's something you can do in the waiting room. You can do that, while the producers are futzing around. You can do a little bit of massaging, that kind of thing. Also the thing that I do all the time, I'm in the middle of a song, the band might be taking a solo, I turn my back to the audience and I do tongue stretches. You can do them in the middle of a session. If you have a few, I can hold this now, thanks. So you just want to bring your tongue all the way out of the mouth and you really feel it right down the root where you feel the tongue goes down into the throat, stretch it all the way out. But keep the sides of the lips and the mouth relaxed. All out. And then bring it all the way to one side. Back to center. Keep it out. Bring it in. Wait, let's do photo opportunity. And then when you bring it back in, just give a little swallow, let it kind of reset. The other one we like to do too is just take the tip of the tongue, anchor it behind the bottom teeth, and roll the middle of the tongue out so it looks like this. Also should be feeling that at the root of the tongue. And now we're going to pulse it in and out. Good. Come bring it in and swallow. Whenever you do any kind of tongue stretch that way, you want to always make sure you swallow. It'll kind of like reset it. These are really great things to do in a session. You're feeling kind of stressed out. It's a great way to kind of give it a reset. I also have some actual vocalizing I can do too. This is a really great way to vocalize. You don't need an app. You don't need a CD. It doesn't matter what pitch you do it on, but I want you to pick. Excuse me, it does matter what pitch you do it on, but everybody gets to pick their own pitch is what I'm trying to say. So whatever your normal speaking pitch is, whatever you would naturally gravitate to speaking-wise, we're gonna hum a syllable, an NG syllable, and how we get to that syllable is we say the word sing and sustain it. Sing. Good. So the back of the tongue should be raised, touching the soft palate lightly. Tip of the tongue is resting at the back of the bottom teeth. Good. Nice and easy, that's right. Yeah, it's like a didgeridoo. Nice. Now from that NG, I'm gonna lightly just transfer into a vowel sound. So it'll sound like this. And the first vowel sound I'm gonna use is ah. So it'll go. You guys are like all Tibetan monks now. That's fantastic. So you're just going back and forth. Good. Back and forth on that NG to the ah. And you can just cycle now through all different vowel sounds. So you can do NG ah, NG a, NG e, NG o, without using the lips. See, let's try that one. That's a fun one to do. NG to o without using your lips. Let's try that. It's going to be fun. NG. Good. This is also an excellent cool down, really excellent cool down. But this is really nice, gentle way to get into your vocalizing, and just the more natural the function, the better, and the more you can support that natural function. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up, and maybe this is not the time because we're really talking about warm-ups, is just the idea of support. And so you want to touch on that later? Or
Sure, no, go right ahead.
Okay. So, what do I want to say about support? What about your diaphragm? Yeah, does anybody here know what their diaphragm is? What's the diaphragm? That's the general area-ish that it sits in, yeah. So your diaphragm, actually, the rim of your diaphragm is attached to the bottom ribs. It goes all the way around the whole body. It's almost like you want to think of it as an equator. Can your diaphragm fill up with air? No, but you hear people say, use your diaphragm, speak from your diaphragm, sing from your diaphragm. Sometimes the misconception, people are thinking like, oh, the air must come from there. But no, yeah, it's a 1/4-inch sheet of muscle, and that's again part of how our vocal instrument is mostly muscular. And so when it's at resting state, the diaphragm looks like an upside down bowl, and when it's at resting state, the upside down bowl is all the way up here. And as you take a breath, it lowers, and your belly should pooch out a little bit, so that you know you're getting a nice breath. If your abs are not relaxed, you're not going to get a nice supported breath. So unfortunately, I spent my whole life like sucking it in, sucking it in, sucking it in, but you have to keep it relaxed. And you really want to think about also, without getting into tremendous detail, you want to think about when you take a breath, breathing into the back of the body. Use the back of the body when you take a breath in. When you take a deep breath, avoid doing this. A lot of times you ask someone, take a deep breath, and they raise up their shoulders. That actually constricts your air. So you want to think about when you inhale, think about filling up the back of the body, keeping the belly soft, so that you really can have the support you need. And recognize and trust that your body's going to give you the right amount of air that you need for your vocal folds.
I had a teacher who used to say, breathe through your butt. Release your genitals and breathe through your butt. We wrote a song in grad school, breathe through your butt, release your genitals and breathe through your butt. And it really relaxes everything because you do tend to breathe in instead of breathing down and releasing. And this diaphragm is so important because what we do as actors in games are these sound sets. And a lot of them are these short, sharp, or sustained long, which is all has to do with diaphragm support. You can save yourself so much pain if you stop screaming from your throat and support from your diaphragm. Just ha, 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 ha. Just doing that will build this muscle and will give you the support. So if you're punching, huh, you're not, huh, you're huh, from below. And that will save you so you can make it to the 20 seconds of hair on fire, you know? It really will help. The diaphragm, you need to build up that support, you know?
I've been breathing through my butt for years. It works.
It really does, because you get tense and you do want to hold it in, especially. But the minute you just do it. Think about breathing. It's a stupid idea, but think about it. It's a visual. Breathe through your butt, release your genitals. And all of a sudden it goes, whoom, and you're attached to your chair once again. You're not sitting up here, you're sitting all the way down there. And breathe through that, and you'll get a nice, clear channel down. It's a visualization, but it works.
I'm also going to make T-shirts. Breathe through your butt.
Breathe through your butt on the front and release your genitals on the back.
I want to talk for a second. You mentioned about the your natural speaking voice. And I think that everybody's is different. And when we sort of were doing the humming, we all sort of found, which is a very choir type of thing to do, and it's very common to just have it. But each of us really do have a different resting pitch. And there's a real neat trick for that I learned years and years ago, which is, so when you're driving along in the car, imagine someone asking you if your name is what your name is, and you go, mm-hmm. So that's the tone right there for me, is this in this area right here, and I can do this all day. And that's when the stress starts to come in when we're asked to pitch up, pitch down, add aspiration, add gravel and texture to the voice, and that's when stress starts to occur. So it's a great way to warm up, but don't think that it has to be the same tone that we use here. It's your own personal tone, and then the character is going to move from that space. So it's an easy thing to figure out when you want to do that. Is from that Okay, right there. That's So for everybody, it's different. Steve, what are your tricks?
My regimen starts the night before. If I know that I'm going to be going into a screaming session, I first of all sleep. I make sure I get a good night's sleep, and I think that's highly underrated. A lot of us in the entertainment business tend to keep very late hours, and I really make an effort at least to go to sleep a little bit earlier the night before and hydrate. I drink more water than anybody I know, and that's probably what's kept me alive for all of these years. I do humming warm-up in the morning, and I didn't know the right way to do it, but apparently I've been hitting that because I find my natural tone, and it's just a long, low hum, and that seems to really open things up for me. And then for the facial muscles also, I will go through a ridiculous-looking set of vowel sounds, just stretching everything out. A, E, I, O, U. I don't know if that's the proper way to do it, but it works for me, especially when you're going into a session where you do have to go at a high rate of speed for legal copy, those types of things, or for characters that are going at rapid fire. That seems to help me a lot. No milk, no coffee, no sugar. And limit the alcohol the night before. And I try to limit the alcohol at sessions too. That helps too. It's not always avoidable. But yeah, the warm-ups and the warm-downs are extremely important. And consider it the night before. If you're going to be doing a lot of this stuff, consider it the night before and be aware of your body and how you feel after a screaming session, and make adjustments along the way. You can be your own best doctor, I think, preemptively. But I don't mean that with any disrespect. I mean, before we get to you and need your help, we can do a lot to prevent this stuff from happening in the first place.
So strategies. Let's start down the other end this time.
I start at
Misty's
the
right.
beginning of a session. I've been in the business long enough where I have relationships with a lot of the directors and producers, and I can have these conversations. It's difficult for people who have not developed these relationships, but I'll start at the beginning, and I try to get the script ahead of time or some indication of what it's going to look like the day before, if possible. When I step into that studio and I look at the copy that's just been laid out in front of me, I'll know if there's going to be vocal projection. And even if I have my agent ask every single time, is this a vocally stressful session? And please be honest. And 9 times out of 10, they will say vocally stressful only if there is a sound set involved, only if there is screaming and efforts and that sort of thing. They don't take into account for projection, vocal projection, which can be as little as this, just speaking at an elevated volume for a period of time. So I will look at that. I will see where the cues are. I will see how they have it laid out, how many cues there are, and what they're expecting to accomplish in that session. And I'll start the negotiation process right there. I'll say, look, if you have a sound set you have to have me do, please let's leave it to the end. We have to do that. Otherwise, I have no voice to stay in character for the rest of it. And I will say when the stress is beginning, and at some point I will say, I have to stop. I actually have to stop. Even if I'm scheduled for 4 hours in a session, I will say, no, an hour and a half in, this is it. I'm done. I'm going to hurt myself. And either they respect it or they don't, and you have to be prepared to walk out or face permanent damage. Those are the choices.
But you also have the upfront aspect of it, which I think is really important for everybody to hear, that your agents are the first line of defense.
Yes.
In this regard, that your agents can ask questions. It's not just enough to, agents aren't just jotting down what you booked and telling you where to go and when. Mm-hmm. They can also ask questions. It's part of the negotiation, is to be able to say, is this a vocally stressful session?
What I notice is a lot of times people will run through a page and it'll be just, give us 3 in a row and we'll just keep moving down. And this happens for me a lot when I start working with someone new. I'm super excited and I want to do a great job and I want to do exactly what they ask from me. And it came up a couple of months ago where I had someone who, I don't know that he was technically a voice director. And so he was like, doing everything great, but we were going to do 3 of everything. And I realized at my break that I was doing the people pleaser thing where I was, kind of like, just throwing a bunch of stuff at him, like, how about this, how about this, how about this? And I thought to myself at my break, I need to calm down and I need to take control of my part of this session. And so I walked back in and I said, I'm gonna do 1 for you. And you tell me if I'm in the ballpark, if this is something that you like, and that's what you're going for, and then we'll go through that. So that ability for me to say that allowed them to say, yeah, that's not anything that we want. So I wasn't throwing everything at the wall and just blowing myself out, in order to give them what they maybe didn't even want. So I think what's really important as individuals when you walk in, and I know it's very tempting to do that. I've been doing this for, 17 years or something now, and I still catch myself, obviously, is to take control of your part of it, to say, am I somewhere in the ballpark? To go through, look ahead in your scripts, use your break time instead of hanging out and chatting, to look ahead and see what's coming up so that you can be, collaborating with the directors and the producers. Nobody wants you to hurt yourself. Everybody wants all the sessions to be great all the time. And we are a huge part of that. So that's what I've started employing, and it seems to be working much better than last year.
I'll say, too, from a director's standpoint, the folks at Activision and with Treyarch realized that they don't get much good use out of actors after 2 hours, but they had a lot of stuff they wanted to do. So we did reduce what we were doing to 1 take. And we would just do, how it is, it's just groups. It's like, oh, this is a great machine gun. Oh, what a swell machine gun. Gee, I can really use this machine gun. I'm taking this machine gun with me. And that's the machine gun pickup, the 5 different variations that play. So, come on, really? Do you need 2 takes to do those? So we just go bam, 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 one at a time, and then I stop, and if I need a pickup on one of the lines, we go back and get it. And what it does is it allows the content creators to get the same number of cues that they would get in a 4-hour session in a 2-hour session. So I think going to one is a really, really great middle ground. And it was really very effective that we got actors out of there in 2 hours, and we got 300 to 400 cues in those 2 hours. We were able just to knock them out.
A lot of times you're asked as an actor to come in, and we've got 3 roles for you. If it's animation, it's 3. If it's games, I believe it's more than that, right? So it depends, yeah. But it's usually 3. Let's just say it's 3. You have the power as an actor to go in and say, hey, I'm so happy to be here. What are we doing today? Well, I've got Big Beast, I've got Young Girl, and I've got Mother. Just straight like in your vocal range. So I've got something really high, medium, and really deep. Figure out as your own instrument and you as an actor, what's the best order of pitch for you? So you don't start with the monster voices and blow your... I've had that happen. I go in, even as an actor, and I was blowing it on this huge monster, and then he said, okay, so now we've got a 15-year-old girl for you to do. And I was like, no, you don't, because I don't have that anymore. And the director doesn't know that sometimes. The producers don't know that. They need to get certain things done. They figure we'll get the big juicy stuff first and we'll leave these 2 other little roles for the end. But if it's easier for you as an actor to get those little roles done first and better for your instrument, then just ask. Again, you just have to ask. It's so important. And that's how you can then open this conversation, which you need to have with your directors. And even if it is the first time meeting a director, just talk to them and say, what do we got? Okay, is it okay if we do this first and save all the yelling for the end? Doesn't matter if you're, first job, big celebrity. You have the right to ask.
9 times out of 10, if you're in a conversation with your directors, if you're in a conversation with your agents, it's the lines of communication are so important, particularly to video game work, which are long sessions that are vocally stressful. Even if you're just doing a simple role, a 4-hour session of just talking you're going to wear yourself out. You're going to do some, not damage, you're going to just be tired. At the end, your voice is going to need to rest. So use your voice. I will say that Linda and her office has put together a really nice levels. We've sort of asked her to sort of put it into levels that we could talk about. Levels of vocal risk. There's level 1, and there's mild vocal risk, which is outside conversational speech. Level 3 to mid to moderate vocal risk, including some loudness. Standard stage projection, if I wasn't using a microphone. Level 4 would be some more severe, around 75 decibels, the pitch is too low, or textured voices when you start to add, this stuff to it. And then severe vocal risk at level 5, which is extreme loudness, required to come over ambient noise around 90 decibels, pitch is way too low, textured voices, and the vocal cords are slamming together with extreme force. So we're extremely grateful to her office for putting that together for us. It's a really, really handy